Welcome in everybody to my latest live video. And today it is Friday. Yes, it's another Friday. It's time to continue what we started last Friday with our Project Zero build. It's the 26th of January, 2024. My name is CareyHolzman, and thank you all for, look, so many people are already in the chat, eagerly awaiting today's show, as we are showing parts we've never shown before because, quite frankly, they haven't been available until recently. So we've got an MSI case here and the MSI Project Zero board. Now this Project Zero case is also special because it's got, well, you can kind of see cutouts right along the edges of the motherboard tray across the top, side, and bottom that make room for all of the connectors that are typically on the front of the motherboard have all been moved to the back. And that's going to hide all but one of our cables, which is our CPU cooler. So I'm excited to see how this fits together. I've never used an MSI case before. And overall, just the, it's glass. Overall quality on a first impression is good. It's a little wider than your average case, but it needs to be because they have sort of a second area there, or a second chamber, I suppose, for all of your cables to be hidden. And that also means that if you decide not to cable manage it, if you decide to just throw a rat's nest of cables in there, it'll make no difference to how it looks from the front. It'll only make a difference to anybody that has to open it and work on it. So I'll still cable manage it for my own sanity, but just know you can just be lazy, slap the rear panel on it, and it'll look no different from the front. This is how it arrives out of the box. We've got the 3 fans right up front here. It's available in white or in black. And since I went with the, well, I suppose the motherboard is kind of silver and black, I just decided to go with white. We've got RGBRAM. And if you want to see this board being prepped, be sure and check out part 1, where Mitch Morrison joined us last Friday to get everything ready. Now, this board and this case were sold together as a combo. They're also sold separately. And that's over at Newegg. Let me show you, because I didn't find these parts available at Amazon. Now, I don't have any affiliate link with Newegg, so I don't make any profit or commission if you guys decide to order the same combo I ordered. But here, the combo is the motherboard and the case together. That's all you get, motherboard and case, for $300 basically, $299. It's about a $40 savings if you were to order them separately. Now, with regards to Project Zero, they do make an Intel version of this board. They also make a full ATX version of the board. However, and again, both for Ryzen or for AMD and Intel. But the catch there is I was not able to find a compatible case for the full-size ATX motherboard, which would be my personal preference. So in order for this video to become, to manifest this video, to materialize it from an idea in my head, I had to go with what was available now or wait. And I decided I didn't want to wait. So I went with the Micro ATX. We do enough Intel builds, and I've been impressed lately with the latest version of the Ryzen processor. I thought I'd give it another look here. So we're using the Ryzen 5 7600. I did not want to put a lot of money into this. I don't need it. I like the idea of it. It really is a significant change in how we're building computers. And this may be how motherboard manufacturers and case manufacturers start to move in the future, which I think would be ideal. I'd love to see that. On the other hand, it may just be a fad and a collector's item because it didn't catch on. So we'll see what the future holds for us. But in the meantime, these parts are just now available. So if it's a fad, it's just starting now. And Asus has announced they're going to have a board with connectors on the back. They're not calling it Project Zero for obvious reasons. But today we're going to go ahead and put this motherboard in this case. I've got a cheap power supply here that I regret buying it, but it's good enough for what we're doing today. If I were going to use this machine personally, I would probably change this out, but I'm trying to keep this as budget friendly as I can because we have a very tight budget here, and I'm trying to bring you as much content as possible with the budget I have to work with. So rather than blow it all on one build that, is just going to sit here and collect dust after the project's complete, I would rather try and make as many videos as possible. And if that means I've got to use a cheaper power supply, then so be it. Now, I did not know it was this cheap when I ordered it. It was $42, so I knew I was paying $42, but I didn't expect it to be as bad as it is. I should have looked for the 80+ certification, which it does not have. And it's just an older power supply from years past. I don't know why it's still being sold today, but I'm sure it'll work fine. I'm just a little bit... If I were to sell this to a customer and I had to support it, I would be worried about having to replace this after... I don't know. I just think the chances of having to replace it are greater than something that's 80+ certified. So be that as it may, it's probably going to be fine. You know, this thing could work for the next 20 years for all I know. I just don't like gambling when it comes to my business. But since this is not going to a customer, it's a channel build, I can play it a little fast and loose here. My thanks, of course, to our friends at Acronis. Have you backed up your computer recently? I hope you have. And if you have, wonderful. You set a great example. If you haven't, you really should. Nobody cares more about your data than you. I promise you, you'll find little empathy in the world. And nor will, if you did find empathy, will it help you get your data back. Data recovery is very expensive. It's very time consuming and it's not guaranteed. So you get what you get. If you back up your own stuff, you can be your own data recovery. It's much faster, much cheaper. If you've got a backup solution you're using and you like, wonderful. If you don't, try Acronis. If you're not happy with the backup solution that you're using, or you're looking for something more robust, more user-friendly, check out Acronis. 15-day free trial and a 30% discount all throughout the year for all of our viewers here. Our thanks to Acronis for that. And we'll bring Acronis on a few times this year, I think. Maybe once a quarter. I'm not going to beat you over the head with them. But I do want you to be aware of just how powerful and easy to use the software is. And so we'll bring on Bagouten, once again, from Acronis, and he does a great job explaining it. And if you've missed any of our previous interviews, be sure and check them out. The software has been updated since then. It's mostly going to follow exactly the same as last year's interview. Also, our friends over at Instant House Call, that's the remote access program I use when I log into customers' machines to do repairs remotely. It's intended for computer technicians. It's got a lot of built-in tools and utilities for remote computer repair. And while it can be used as just a basic remote software, again, there's a free trial of it. It's very inexpensive. For a while, I was using TeamViewer, and they are so ridiculously overpriced. To me, TeamViewer has emergency room prices, and Instant House Call has more like... I'm trying to find a better example of getting healthcare cheap, which here in America, it's a tough, having mom put a Band-Aid on it for you. Not quite that cheap, but he's very aggressively priced in the space. And especially if you were fixing computers for people, it'll pay for itself in just one service call. That's for a month. That's how affordable it is. So don't take my word for any of this. Please check it out for yourself. And of course, thanks to our friends at VIP CDK Deals. That's where we get our Windows license keys and our Microsoft Office keys very, very inexpensively. They're about 85, 90% off retail price, and they're real. They're legit, and they're guaranteed. Finally, my password manager is RoboForm. I like RoboForm. I've been using it for 15, 18 years. I don't remember. I don't know how I live without it. I use every product I'm telling you about. I wouldn't promote it otherwise unless I used it, I liked it, I use them in my business, I recommend them to my paying customers, and for that, I recommend it to you. That's why you're not seeing any video games being promoted here for your phone. I don't do that. I don't play those games, I don't recommend those games, and I get offers all the time from these companies that sell stuff that I'm not interested in that I feel would jeopardize my integrity. So please, don't take lightly if I am endorsing anything, because that is a very fine filter for companies to fit through. And not many companies at all will meet my requirements. And I'd rather go broke than sell my soul out. But that's just me. Anyway, all the links for that are in the video notes. Please be sure and check out the video notes. We have a routine of people who don't understand how to use YouTube. It is very frustrating for me. So just as a friendly reminder, there are these things that are called video notes. And it's on every video you ever watch on YouTube. And they contain critical, in many cases, critical information that's referenced in the video. And this is the best system we have right now. It would be great if you could just click on the screen at the thing you wanted to buy or learn more information about. We're not there yet. They've been talking about this for years, but we're not there yet. So instead, we have the links in our video notes. And a lot of times people ask questions that are answered in the video notes. So please check out the video notes. You might find your question is already answered there. We spend a lot of time curating those notes and making sure that everything is included, that nothing is omitted, that we have no spelling errors, we have no grammar problems. We try our best to keep it 100% professional. And it's a shame when they get ignored, when people just don't know they're there. With that, let me say hello to everybody joining us in the chat room. And boy, we got a full house today, don't we? All right. Well, first of all, shout out and a thank you for those super chats that have come in. Let me start there by going back to my other page. There you guys are. Okay. $2 comes in, first of all, from Planet Cryos. Right on. Thank you, Planet Cryos. He says, good to see everyone. Cowboy Rowdy with a $10 super chat says, howdy, Carey, Marlena, and chat. Howdy, Cowboy Rowdy. 3D Everything with a $10 super chat says, hello, Carey, Marlena, et al. And we've got Paul O'Brien joining us from Ireland. I almost screwed that up. And Paul contributes €5. Don't mind me, I'm just struggling with my mouse here. Paul says we're the world's best fans. Then we cool off and realize we're all super fans of CareyHolzman and Camera Girl, Marlena. Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate your support, your enthusiasm. David Graham renews membership, now a member for 5 months here on the channel. Thank you, David, for being a member of our tech club. We do a live members-only video every Monday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. And those videos are never made public. Those are strictly for members only. And it's a much smaller crowd, so it's much more intimate. It's easier to talk back and forth with people when there are hundreds of people in the chat. And these are the people who make buying all this possible. All those super chats and memberships really go a long way to help us continue to buy the products we want to buy, to review the products we want to review. Well, we do reach out to companies and ask them to send us products. Sometimes we get no response, and other times they want to send us something that they're currently pushing, and it's not what we want. And then sometimes, or oftentimes, when companies send products that's under conditions that you have to publish by a certain date, you've got to send them all kinds of private analytical data about your channel, they're going to evaluate whether or not you're worth sending the product to, and then you're not allowed to disparage the product. And if you do, they probably will never send you anything ever again. So when we buy the products with our own money, we're free to say whatever we want. Damn the consequences, because we'll just buy another one if we want to buy another one, or we won't if we don't want to. You know what I mean? So that type of freedom and control, that independence, is something I strive for here. And you guys, all of you, make that possible. I can't thank you enough for that. These would be very different videos without your support, and they'd be much more infrequent for the amount of money I'm spending to create them. And again, all the money that comes into the channel goes back into the channel. So the more money we get, the more stuff we can do, and the bigger the projects can be. We do get some free products from time to time without conditions. A lot of the mini PCs, well, I'd say maybe 50-50. We buy about half of them and half of them are sent. But they're done under a condition that we're free to speak, freely about them. And they don't like our review, well, they don't have to send us anymore. They're under no obligation. And hopefully they appreciate that, we're not lashing out at them. We're not bullying them. We just might find some concerns with build quality or other issues. And you'd think a company would appreciate honest feedback, but what they really want are sales. So a lot of times the pushback from the company is, sort of blacklisting you. We've been very fortunate with the companies we've been working with that we haven't dealt with that in a very long time, and that they do appreciate any criticisms. And so bear that in mind, that the companies we've been getting product from, have that integrity. So it's always good to see, and used to be pretty rare to see it. Now it looks like more companies are opening up to that, and starting to appreciate its critical feedback that can help them build a better product. Planet Cryo says Carey has the Superman curl going on. He's the project hero today. The projectzero hero. Let me get my cape. Thank you, Planet Cryos. And of course, there's our friend Buster. Peter Laycock contributes 10 pounds, joins us from Scotland. Buster says, good evening, Carey and Marlena and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh is 45 degrees Fahrenheit or 7 degrees Celsius. That sounds a little brisk, a little bit brisk. Still, nice. All right, always good to see everybody in the chat. There's Oystein joining us from Norway. I see you in there. And Garfield Rupe, Chris Johnson, Douglas Burchell, and John Williams. Good to see everybody. And let me just take a quick look just to see if we have any questions before we begin. Mark Cresswell saying hello from Liverpool. Me and John are thinking of getting the band back together. That's a terrible accent. Shouldn't do that. I see a lot of hellos coming in from everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Bull142 says hello. There's DJ Matrix. He says he's been rocking a 7600 for a while now. He's very happy with it. Good to hear. Cap Malinsky says it's hello from a warm 61-degree day here in January in southwestern Pennsylvania. Lauren says that is a cool design. Hats off to MSI. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I felt it pretty important for me to cover this, even though I really don't have room for another computer in here. I'm still trying to sell the machines I've already built, and well, I have gotten rid of, I don't know. I think last year I moved around 70 or 80, and this year so far I've moved around 30. So there's still a lot of catching up for me to do. I still have at least another 30 or 40 around here. And that's a whole full-time job in and of itself. Plus, of course, the computer repair work and support jobs I take on off camera. That's my regular day job. And then these fun projects. I just thought this was pretty important to cover because it's a big change in the industry. And we don't, as often as we see upgrades in RAM and storage and CPUs, we do not often see upgrades like in the power supplies or in the motherboards themselves. The ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX standards have been around for a long time, a couple decades. So to be able to have something new, I want to be one of the first, if I can, to introduce it to you. I'm not here to tell you whether or not it's good or not. I mean, I have my personal preferences, but I just want to introduce you to it. I want you to be aware that it's available for you to consider on your next build if you see value in it. Me personally, as a builder who hates cable management, when I first started this, there was no such thing as cable management. There was no such thing as liquid cooling. I didn't sign up for any of that. That's not what I wanted to do. But you've got to change or close your doors, right, of your business, or severely limit the amount of business, which will likely close the doors of your business, whether you like it or not. And you got to roll with it. But this change I'm all about. I'm like, hey, this is a good change, and I don't know why it's taken so long to do what should be pretty obvious. I don't think it's that big of an engineering marvel to take the connectors that are on the front of the board and simply move them to the back. What's the big deal? But I'm glad MSI has done it. I'm glad to see ASUS will be following up. Hopefully we'll see something from Gigabyte and from ASRock this year. Also, again, just a couple of boards. They're not going to do all of their boards. They're going to stick a toe in the water, see if this thing catches on. If it does, well, we can expect that to be the future. If it doesn't, well, we can expect it to go the way of the dodo. But either way, it's here now and it's an option today. And worth considering both on the Intel and AMD platforms, both micro ATX and full ATX. And we should see a full ATX case from MSI coming out sometime soon, I hope. What's the point of selling the full-size ATX motherboard if you don't have a case to put it in? You know, the case has to have those cutouts for those rear connectors. In some cases, may accidentally be compatible. I don't know what they are, but there's probably a couple out there. But if you want to be sure it's going to fit, you definitely want to pair it with a case designed for the rear ports, which is exactly what this case is for. But the reverse is not true. You could buy this case and put a regular motherboard in it. You don't have to put a projectzero motherboard in this case, but you do need a compatible case to put this motherboard in. Does that make sense? So this case requires this motherboard requires a special case. This case does not require a special motherboard. It'll go either way. It's fine. So, you know, if you wanted to use this as your next case, but you weren't ready for projectzero yet, you're just going to move your current equipment over to it, with the idea being your next build will be projectzero and you'll already have the case. Sure, you can absolutely do that. This case is available in black and in white, and currently only in micro ATX format, which will also take mini ITX, but once again, that's not going to be, there are no mini ITX motherboards with the ports on the back. Not yet anyway. But you could still put a mini ITX in there. Okay, so should be relatively straightforward to do this. What I need to do, first and foremost, is get these side panels off of here. This is my first experience with this case. There's been no script, no rehearsal. I literally took this out of the box about an hour ago. We've got a USB Type-C down here, a Type-A down here, a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. We have an LED button that'll control the LED on the fans, and our power button. So everything's here on the left bottom side. I think it sucks when they only give you one USB Type-A, because where that's going to plug in is a connector that feeds two. You can't share that connector. So if the connector is going to only go to one, then you lose one. So that sucks. Now with the USB Type-C here, that's typically a single connector going onto a single plug that only feeds one. So that's okay, just having one of those. But just having one of these, well, you can't really see it because the plugs are in the way. But just having one USB Type-A stinks, because you're going to lose one. But in the back, of course, on the back of the motherboard, we have lots more USBs available. And that may be more convenient than this down here. I don't know. I kind of would prefer if they'd have moved it up to the top, but I suppose this is just another way to hide the cabling if you think about it. They've moved the cabling down below the tray. And the other thing I thought was interesting is that the power supply shroud does not go all the way across. And of course, you have the cutouts in the power supply shroud for feeding in cables on an old school motherboard. And then you've got this shroud, this grommet right here in the front for feeding in a power cable to a video card, because that's still going to be right up in the front where everybody can see it. We're going to use integrated graphics, so we don't have to deal with that. But it's an interesting design. It's all glass. I thought that was plastic when I took it out, but no, it's tempered glass. So let's get it apart. Let's see what's in here. See how it comes apart. So starting off, just kind of visualizing it here, I've got two thumb screws that are apparently a silver color here. I'm always kind of curious if these are going to be captive or come out, and these come out. It's always nice when they're held captive, so you don't have to worry about losing them. Kind of feel like that should be captive. Maybe I've just unscrewed it too far. And then we pull that back. Let me just try that back in there. Normally, if you see a little shoulder on the bolts, a little flat area above the threads, that usually indicates that they're intended to be held captive, and that does appear to be the case. I've just taken them out too far. On the top, we've got a screen with ventilation for airflow. Not a whole lot going on here. Pretty simple design. Set that right down here. And then that should free us up now to, there's little tabs that stick out here and here. It might be hard to see on camera. But if I pull on that, yep, sure enough, there goes the back panel right there. And if we do the same up here on the front, pull that towards me and then lift straight up, and then there's our panel. So what that's going to expose now is the front and rear of this case. I imagine this front probably comes off. I don't see any reason why I'd want to take it off. And we have already a mess. I mean, I haven't even done anything yet, and we have a mess. So this is all fan controllers. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 plugs plugged in here on this fan controller, and this is ARGB splitter here. Then this bag, this is going to have all of our mounting hardware. We're going to need that, which includes some white zip ties and screws for mounting the motherboard and drives and anything else you want to put in. Our power supply obviously is going to go down here on the bottom. There's our USB 3 or 3.1 or audio. I don't know. I don't know what that is. This is USB 2. Interestingly, the USB 2 has 2 cables. Take it back, it's 4 cables. And this may just be USB power for something. I'm sure this will be explained in the manual. But at least it's using that second USB type A port, right? Because these 4 wires, they're going to that single USB type A port that I just complained about. And now the other one is going to whatever this is for, which just may be 5-volt power. That would be my guess. But what it's for, I don't know yet. We've got some Velcro zip ties to help with the cable management here. It's nice that they've picked white cables for this. And then if you want to, you can plug the ARGB into the motherboard if you want to control the ARGB with the motherboard. And then we've got another, this will be the source of power for the fans. So this will plug into a fan header on the board. And this will be just for power for the ARGB. I'm not sure if you have to use both or if we can get by with just the one. We're probably going to have to use both because splitting off 4 fans off of one fan header may be pulling a lot of voltage on that board. So I'm going to guess that we're going to plug this into the power supply, this into the fan header on the board, and this into the ARGB on the board. You don't have to plug this into ARGB on the board. You can use the button on the front of the case, but you want to do one or the other, not both. Now, that looks like pretty much it for the case. I don't see anything that's that much different from any other micro ATX case. As I mentioned, this power supply shroud is unusual that it doesn't go all the way across, but clearly they're doing that because we've got the 3 fans here and then an additional fan here in the back. So you're getting 4 fans included in this price. We've got some pre-installed motherboard standoffs here that look like they're in a standard position for a micro ATX board. Hopefully we won't have to change or move any. Now, with regards to what do we do first? I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I could put the power supply in first. That's super easy. I could put the motherboard in first. I'm kind of anxious on how that motherboard is going to look when it's in there. I already know what the power supply is going to look like. So let's start with the motherboard and do that first. And I'm going to lay this flat. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot for you to see in this process because in order for me to do this, I want to work with gravity. I like to keep the case as upright as often as I can so that you guys can see. But when I'm actually working on a computer, this is typically the way I'm working on it. The way I show you on camera is not the way I would build a computer off camera or, you know, under normal circumstances. So I do things for your benefit that you don't necessarily need to mimic if you're following along with me. Always let gravity work with you whenever it's an option. We got European regulatory notices and an MSI quick installation guide. Okay, so the board was prepped last Friday. Prepped means we've got the motherboard, storage, RAM, operating system updates, BIOS update, all fired up, tested, and verified it works. Now we just simply have to set this down in here. And the cutouts in the back motherboard tray should accommodate all of our ports on the back of the motherboard. Now, because this is MSI's board and MSI's case, I imagine the pre-installed motherboard standoffs are exactly where they need to be, but I just want to verify that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. Yeah, that is exactly right. One of the benefits of buying the motherboard, buying your case from the motherboard manufacturer, is you should have no fitment issues. However, you still might on occasion, depending on who the manufacturer is. Some take more care in that than others. But the board is going to go in there and it's going to sit down so that, again, all of the ports are going to go through those rectangular holes along the edges of the motherboard tray. Other than that, it sits down just like any other board. Just got to be mindful of that. And screws. Where are my screws? Let's go ahead and we can secure it down and I can tip it back up on its feet. Oh, look, they've given us a little level for something, a little bubble level. I wonder what that's for. Don't know what that's for. Interesting. And we've got what appears to be a battery. Did they include a battery for something? Huh. I don't know what this is. I might be opening the manual on this one. Now, I do have some Amazon packages arriving today, so if you hear my phone beeping, it's because, well, it's probably because there's packages arriving. And that'll be a good thing. Yes. The Galaxy S24. Okay. All right, let's wrap up the show. I got to go get the mail. Let's see. We've got a little clip. I'm trying to figure out what this... Is this a battery? What the heck is this? It sure looks like a battery. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a magnet. Mark Cresswell says that bubble levels to make sure I'm level-headed. Steve McCure said, so this build is now on the level. This looks like a little container. Looks like it opens. The heck is this? It looks like a foot for something. Is it magnetic? What is this for? It's a magnet. Is it a... It extends pretty far. It's like some kind of support. Huh. That's a new one. I'm sure the instructions will tell us what this is for. Right? Sure they will. I thought it was a little battery the way it ships like that, but that is something entirely different, and it is magnetized. So there you go. And then we've got some more Velcro zip ties. Somehow I think these two things go together. Our little bubble level here. Not exactly sure. That's our bubble level for whatever purpose. Huh. Not expected. Those two items are not expected. I've never seen those items in any other case before. And we've got some long fan screws. It looks like there's a little socket here if you need to move any of the motherboard standoffs. And there's a couple of extra motherboard standoffs. With regards to the screws, we've got our standard fine threaded screws for drive installation. And the coarse threaded screws, these are typically what are used for securing the board. Or the shorter ones may be for 2.5-inch drive install. Now, I haven't even really looked that up yet to see where the drive cages are, where your drives would go. So we'll look that up when we bring the case back up on its feet. I'm just not sure which screws go to these standoffs. Are these standoffs using the fine screws or the coarse screws? Terrence Green contributes 5 pounds in Super Chat. Thank you, Terrence. You know, they've given us so many of the fine threaded screws. Starting to think, because we need 8 screws for the motherboard. I don't think I have 8 of the smaller ones here. It looks like 4 screws for the power supply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It might be 8 of these shallower ones. And then we have a whole ton of these thin ones. So I'm going to guess it's the thin ones. Let's see. One way to find out for sure, simply try it. You can speculate for hours on a test that takes 30 seconds, you know? So I'd rather just do the test, get our answer, and be done with it. Let me just try. Wrong screwdriver. I don't want to use the electric driver until I know I've got the right screw. See if these will tighten down or if they just kind of wobble around. If they wobble around, I got the wrong ones. Oh, it tightens. Okay, let me loosen that up a little bit. So there's 1. 2. So it is these fine threaded screws. Interesting. 3. 4. Don't want to tighten them all the way down until I get them all started. Then I can still shift the motherboard if necessary to align the screws with the mounting holes. Or with the standoffs behind the mounting holes, I should say. Okay. See, like this is a very strange way to work. It's very difficult. I cannot see through the top of the I/O here or the heat sink. So I'm kind of feeling for where the hole is and working blind. I would never do that in real life, you know, off camera. I would be having a very clear, my vision would be the only one I'm worried about being able to see. And with the board laying down like this, it kind of makes it a little difficult. Like I can't even find this last hole that I know is up there. So at this point, there's enough that I could turn it up, but I would rather have those screws tightened down before I do that. So the last one is right here by the edge of this VRM heatsink, pretty well hidden. So now with all the screws started, I'll just go ahead and snug everything up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it. That's all 8. Now I can pick this back up, put it back on its feet. Okay, so that's the part that always looks the same, right? It's this back part that we're most interested in. Let me go ahead and get the Lazy Susan out. That's the fun part about having cables hang out. Just snag on everything laying around the desk. Am I on top of something? Maybe just the bearings, or it's those cables. All right, so if you look, oh yeah, I see that curl was going on there, wasn't it? If you look here, very carefully, look, we have our 12 volt or our EPS power connector for our CPU power, much easier to access here. Next over, we have an ARGB plug, and in our 3 fan headers, this is where our CPU power cable is plugged in. This is our big 12 volt motherboard power connector right here. And then down below our SATA connectors, we have 2 SATA here. It looks like we have, cables are a little in the way. We have 2 SATA cables here, or not cables, 2 SATA connectors here, but this Velcro tie is covering up the bottom one. So if we remove the Velcro tie and get this out of the way, there's another little connector down there. So they obviously they accommodate that, but you'll have to rearrange your cable management accordingly. And then down below here, this is going to be our audio header, our front port umbilicals probably go down here, our USB 2 cable, our USB 3 cable, everything here is right underneath the fan controller. Yeah. Let's try something here. You want to do some camera work for me? All right. Come get some close-ups for me of these plugs. I think that's the most interesting part of the build that makes it, well, the whole justification for today's video. I've already turned it on, so you just need to pick it up and you ready? Come on over. So get some close-ups along the edges here where we look at where these connectors are up here, right? We have a CPU power plug right there, and then the all-in-one comp header and secondary optional CPU fan. And if we continue on this way, any other, oh yeah, there's our 12 volt or our EPS power connectors for the CPU. And then go down the side, nothing on that side, all the way to the bottom. And if you get right down there, you'll see a bunch more connectors. That's going to be our front port header or USB audio, or not our front port audio or front port USB, as well as additional USB 2 connectors. And if you keep moving that direction to your right, sorry, to your left, then we'll find some more connectors here. And then you'll notice some of the cables are kind of covering up those access areas. And it may be a problem if you're using those, or you can just leave it be if you're not. We'll obviously do some cable management cleanup when we're done, but I'm not worrying about any of that for now. And then if you go back up, if you go back to where you were, all the way to your left, right there, and start going up, you'll see there's some more connectors. And that's going to be your SATA plugs there. If you have any SATA drives, our big 24-pin motherboard power is there. And yeah, go ahead and just take a step back, maybe zoom out a little bit and take a look down in the power supply shroud. I'm looking to see where any potential drive cages are. Like if we had some 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch drives, where would they go? Now, I'm sure that the documentation will tell us, but I just like to figure this out on my own as I find it fun.
Neat case.
Yeah, let's bring around the front. You'll see we've got our 3 fans there that are all RGB. When you see those clear white fans, you know they're going to be RGB fans just by the color of the fins. And then we've got a matching one there on the back of the case right there. So everything should match and look good. Of course, we're going with a white theme. And we do have room for a radiator up top. If we wanted to add one, there's room for it. If you could bring the camera up here, lots of room for what looks like a 360 millimeter radiator, maybe a 420, not sure. Again, we can look in the documentation and the specs.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all we needed for close-ups.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Get back to work. All right. So that's your close-up of Project Zero. So essentially, everything we build is going to be the same as what it's been before, except now we're running the cables to the back. So this is essentially not going to change. This look that you see right now, no matter what we do from this point forward, nothing changes this view right here. No matter how many cables I plug in, put the power supply in, you can't see it. It's down here under the shroud. I run all the power cables, you can't see it. It's all back behind the curtain. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That's where all the magic's happening. I think it's a really clever idea, and that's going to be, I mean, that's your sneak peek of what it's going to look like done, quite frankly. That's it. That's what you're going to see. How cool is that? What do you guys think? Give me your honest opinion. Do you think this is a good idea? Or do you think cable management and that whole sort of aesthetic is just pointless and a waste of money? I understand that too, believe me. There was a day when we just wanted a computer. We were happy to have it. Now it's not enough if it doesn't have RGB lights and liquid cooling. So, you know, times they are a-changing, and what used to be good enough is no longer good enough. Now, for me as a system builder, what's important to me is the integrity of the system, the quality. So we're looking at performance, security, and reliability. And RGB doesn't add anything to those 3 categories. It does add to the wallet, the cost. But for some people who want to show it off, you know, there is that factor to consider. I just noticed here on the back of the motherboard tray, etched into the back of the tray, see, I told you I could figure this out without documentation. It says SSD right here. It says HDD right here. It says SSD and HDD right here. So apparently they're intending for you to mount your drives up against the back of the tray. So that's going to make room for what appears to be 2 3.5-inch or 2 2.5-inch drives from the looks of things. So if you've got more than 2, I don't know, unless there's somewhere else you can mount another drive. Maybe down here, looks like there was potentially an option for a cage that isn't here. There's some reason that there's like a lifted up area down here, but then you wouldn't have any room for your power supply cables. I don't know. We'll look at that documentation here shortly. If you're impatient, you can just go ahead and pull the PDF from MSI's website and do that on your own time. Lana Joe says, using a mini PC to watch today. Very nice. Matt says it looks harder to do. I would argue it's easier to do, personally. Like I said, you don't have to do any cable management. You can leave all that mess back there and just leave it as is, slap it together, throw the back panel on. No one will know any better. It's different, but I don't think it's harder. If anything, it's the exact same amount of work, with the only difference really being the cable management, which is the part I hate the most. Frankie B with $4.99 says it's a nice looking case. Hey, thank you, Frankie. Old Man 55 said, plain is fine for my cubby hole in the back of the house. I hear you. Totally hear you. But Lagrinia says this build would look great on my desk. Well, there you go. See? So, got varying opinions on that. John Williams says he thinks it's really nice. Anna Linda says maybe this becomes the new normal. Maybe. Could be seen the beginning of something here that becomes standard. On the other hand, maybe not. Maybe this will be a collector's item. Remember those wacky 2024s? When they had this idea to move the cables to the back of the case? Yeah. Wow, glad that's over. That's a possible future. Martin says it'd be nice if there were some white plugs for the openings for conventional cabling, so the whole background would be white without shadows. That's a good idea. I agree with you. Wouldn't cost them that much more to offer that. Gregory Haffen says he's not happy with his fractal design focus case he picked up for a new system. You know, I have not been a fan of fractal design cases. I've made no bones about my feelings about fractal. Now, a good friend and peer, Anthony Remus, over at Remus Computer Solutions, almost exclusively uses fractal cases. He loves them. But I don't think they're much to look at. And I'm also not a fan of, as you mentioned, the cable management on them. Now, Anthony, he builds them. They look beautiful. He does a great cable management job. And everybody's got their own taste, you know? So for me, we ended up, if you remember, we haven't seen him in a while, but our friend Madi in the chat room had ordered a computer from Anthony Remus. He wanted another machine. I didn't have time to build it. I said, why don't you order it from Anthony? Have it shipped to me and I'll go over it and I'll ship it to you just to make sure it's, you know, up to my standard. And he was a little worried about it. And I said, look, if it's all terrible, which I don't think it will be, I'll rebuild it for you, but I just don't have the time right now. And this can get you the computer faster and we can take a look at what, you know, Anthony's quality builds look like. So he did. And then the machine came in and it's pretty jammed in there. Anthony does good work, but at the same time, it's not the amount of work I want to do. And then I went ahead and it was fine. I sent it to Madi. And about a year later, Madi was having problems with it and found it very difficult to work on. And he said, look, can you just put this in your $200 case and get rid of this? And I said, yeah, it's no problem. And so he ended up setting it back. And the motherboard, the video card broke off the motherboard. The connector broke, the PCI latch, which is not a big deal. But there was something else. And I said, you know, we're going to have to change the motherboard. And if we're going to do that, we might as well upgrade the CPU. So we went ahead and put in a new motherboard, new CPU, and then moved everything into a different, I think, a Corsair 200R case, then sent that back to Madi, and he's been happy with it ever since. So again, to everybody, to each their own. Anthony's customers are obviously very happy with what they have. There are people that absolutely love the fractal design cases. I've had viewers asking me to build in them more often, and I just don't like them. When you look at the server that we worked on from Serve the Home, that was one of the worst cases I've seen in a long time. And that was a Fractal R7, Fractal R9, just a chintzy box, that very thin metal and just not, it was just very, I suppose you could say it was really customizable. And as a result, it just had a lot of parts that most cases don't have to make it more customizable, which to me, it was just more things that were bent and more things that had to be removed. And the whole teardown of that case was quite involved. And good riddance. You know, we ended up using a Be Quiet Pure Base. Was it the Pure Base? No, Shadow Base. The Be Quiet Shadow Base 800DX. And we moved all the server components into that. And it looks so much better. It's smaller. It's lighter. And, you know, again, to each their own. I'm not a fan. You're not alone. But on the other hand, you know, there are a lot of fans of fractal design. So my opinion only goes as far as me, but it's my money and it's my clients I have to support. And so we'll choose the parts that I want to. And with Anthony, it's his money and it's his clients he has to support. And he'll choose the parts, right? And what works for him works for him. And what works for me works for me. Nobody's right or wrong. They're just preferences. For whatever reason, they're preferences. Matt says, computer parts are so expensive. Hey, Matt, you should go back 20 years. Start looking at some prices from, heck, look at some prices from 6 years ago. Look at some prices from 4 years ago. Prices are cheap now. Now, with that being said, RAM and solid state drive prices are going to be going up 20-25% as the manufacturers have stopped producing as many chips. They're trying to tighten up the supply to. So what's going to happen is demand doesn't really change, right? There's a certain demand. If there's an oversupply, then the value goes down on the product. So if they don't manufacture as many, and there's less product out there, it drives the price up. So we're probably going to see an increase throughout 2024 on RAM and solid state drives. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, you think it's expensive today, just wait. You're going to look back at what you just said today and realize prices were good when you look back, say, 6 or 8, 10 months from now. Now, likely it'll cycle back around in about a year, and we'll start seeing those prices decline again. It's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen. I'm not an economist, but we've certainly seen a pattern of this in history with hard drives, with memory, and other computer components, especially during the pandemic. You want to talk about pricey. You know, during the pandemic, things were not only expensive, but very hard to get. So I think you should count your blessings that things are as affordable as they are. And there's layaway programs on Amazon. So, you know, you can make payments until you have the money to pay for everything, and then they'll ship it to you. So you could, I don't know how much more accommodating they could possibly be. Now, if you want to talk about the price of cellular phones for smartphones, that's a different story. Those things are getting outrageously expensive, in my opinion. All right. Rick Fuss says, be quiet is awesome. Love their cases. And David Graham doesn't want me to use the power supply. I guarantee you this power supply is going to be just fine. So there's a snobbish or elitistness amongst some people that it doesn't meet their requirements. But, you know, these were the power supplies we used just like this before 80 plus certification was available. And that was what we had. And we were happy to have it. Now, granted, we did change out more bad power supplies back then than we did today. But also the manufacturing has become roboticized, automated. So there's no more humans having a bad day or being moody, sick, upset, sabotaging what they're doing because they want to get back at the company. These machines work 24/7. They never get sick. They never have a bad mood. Everything's always done the same. And it certainly, I can't tell you how this was built, but it's probably using a more modern building process. Or it's older inventory. Either way, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So if you'd like to send us a power supply that you'd like us to use, reach out to email and I'll tell you where you can send it. But so long as we're paying for it, this is what we're using and it's going to work fine. Now, when I run my business, you know, I don't sell stuff like that to customers. But again, we're trying to work with a very small budget here. And, you know, nothing's more frustrating than having somebody else tell me how to spend my money, especially if they're not contributing. So just keep that in mind when you're making your suggestions. It kind of comes off a little offensive. Now, I'm going to take the rest of these screws. I'm going to put them back in here. When we build computers for clients, if a client said, I want these parts, and I'm willing to support those parts, then that's what we build for the client. But it's the client paying for it. We're not getting any of these parts for free. All right, so we'll put those away for later. I don't know what the clip is for yet. And let's see what our quick installation guide says here. Take a quick peek. This is completely useless. It doesn't even show this case. And it also shows a drive going into a drive cage. This is not the right documentation for this case. This documentation is wrong. This looks like a generic boilerplate kind of one-size-fits-all quick installation guide, which is this case does not accommodate drive rails as pictured below on your bottom right, nor does it accommodate the drive going up by the on the bottom left. All of that's wrong, and even doesn't even show a power supply shroud. So I don't know if that's a mistake, or they figure that's going to Carey. He's not going to read the directions anyway. Just grab anything and throw it in there. Of course, we didn't buy from MSI. We bought from Newegg, and believe it or not, even though I was their spokesman, they don't know who I am. They have no idea who I am. All right, let's go ahead and put the power supply in now. And screws. We've got some screws for that right here. I imagine our power supply came with some screws, but oh, you know what? I bet I left them in the box. That's what I did. Yeah, we'll have to pull a PDF file and see what these items are for. This level and this. I want to say that's probably for GPU support, but that's going to have to go up way higher than it does. So, I'm skeptical. Let's see. There's our extra cables. SATA cables. These were the oh, they gave us the thumb screws for this power supply. I'm not using those. You know what? Take those out of there. Put those in this drawer. That's when we have a case that has thumb screws for everything that match that design, I would use those. But for this, just the regular standard computer screws are going to be just what we want. Okay, I just had my scissors. Is Newegg a good company? Well, I guess it depends who you ask. Newegg is probably right up there with the big reputable retailers here in the United States, along with Amazon and B&H Photo. But there are people that have had bad experiences with them that, you know, feel differently. At the end of the day, it's up to you to decide. But with regards to them being legit, they are legit. Sometimes they make mistakes that people find unacceptable. I don't know any company that's immune from that. Some people may argue that they do it more often. I can't tell you whether or not that's true or not. My experience is such that if you hear me saying that I'm buying from a company, I think it's safe to assume that that's a reputable company to buy from. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't mention the name. And that's something to keep in mind. Anytime I'm telling you about any products, you can assume that those are good, safe products to buy. Unless I say otherwise, why would I be making a video about it? So just to keep that in mind, let's go ahead and put our power supply in. It's going to match here really nice. Weird that they're giving us black cables with a white power supply. However, don't care. Nobody's going to see it. That's the beauty of it. Keep that there. Get my glasses and my shoes. A 2, 3, 4. There we go. I guess it's a slightly, it's almost like an eggshell, I think, white. A little different shade. Close enough for government work. All right. Now this should be the easiest cable management job I've had in a long time. Let's take a look. Big 24-pin motherboard power cable is going to go right here, oddly with the clip going to the inside. Pretty weird. And then we only have a single EPS power connector. And I think it wanted us to use number 1 first. Number 1 is the one closest to the edge. And that connector goes with the cable facing out to the edge of the motherboard. So that's weird that they didn't flip that the other way. It is what it is. It doesn't really matter. Now we have a USB type. This is USB 3. And I think I'm going to have to kind of get down here like this so I can seize what's going on down here. So I see USB 3 right up here. And it looks like that's got to go on this way. Oh, that's interesting. It's a very interesting fit. That works. Then this cable, this one is our audio cable. That goes, you guys see okay? Yeah, that's going to go way over here, right there. And then here. Okay, that says LED. I don't like that cable routed that way, so I'm going to just reroute this. Put it right back where it was. What do we have? This is a USB 2, so that's going to go on either one of these. So we'll pick the one that's closest. I still am making decisions for, wait a minute. I'm making decisions for the best cable management when I don't have to do that anymore. We've got a missing plug right here, but it shows the missing plug in the bottom right. And the way this is designed, backwards. How is that possible? So this missing pin, there's a blocked pin right here. That should be in the opposite corner. It should not be in the bottom right. It should be in the top left. Unless I'm missing something. If we go that way, it can't fit. And if we go this way, that won't fit either. So that implies that that's not a USB cable. Sure does look like one to me. Huh, I don't know. This has got to be USB. What the heck is it? I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, here is our USB type C. That's obviously going to the front. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So this USB-C is going to the front, and that's our only one USB cable. And then we have a USB type C. Does our motherboard accommodate? It does. It's behind that. It's right here. And that'll go right here. I mean, this is way, way easier. And then we've got an additional power. We've got a fan header here. I don't know what this is for. What the heck is this? It's okay. So they've intentionally moved the blocked pin so you don't plug it into USB, clearly. It looks like it's related to this fan controller. So to hook up the fan controller, let's take the wire tie off of here. Oh, you know what that might be? This is, I believe, our front port, because I don't see the umbilicals for the switch and LEDs. So I'm guessing, like NZXT has that single connector that has your power switch, reset switch, power LED, and hard drive in one connector. That's what this is. And that's why it has the opposite pin missing. So you're not an idiot like me and try and plug it into USB. But then that still leaves the question as to what the heck this is for. It looks like that's coming off of the reset switch. Huh. So why is the reset switch connector like this? Where's that supposed to go? Your guess is as good as mine. And we just have a couple more connectors left. Look how easy this is. So we've got our fan header, and that we can plug in right down here if we want to. We don't have to go too far with this at all. We got lots of fan headers down here on the bottom. We can use any of them. I'd say that one right there is a good candidate. We've got ARGB, and again, we don't have to use it, but if we want to, well, heck, they make it super easy because it's just untangle that. Right next to the fan header, to my right, I guess it'll be to your right too. We're both looking at the same perspective here. That'll just go on right there. Just like this. And then finally, I have SATA power, which requires me to grab an extension or a modular cable for this power supply. So I'm gonna grab that real quick and we can fire this thing up. We're done. Super easy. I need to get another little Ziploc for these screws I'm not using because you never know how we might repurpose this in the years ahead. And we're going to need those screws when we repurpose or upgrade. So we'll just go ahead and put all those right in there. Okay. In this box, I should have our modular cables for our power supply. And we'll go ahead and take out a SATA power cable. SATA. There we go. Everything else is extra for upgrades. The Orange is 8 says, are the inspired by badges still on sale? Yeah, you'll go to CareyHolzman.com. And my sister runs that site and she takes care of payment processing and shipping. CareyHolzman.com, and you can order from there. Both mouse pads. We have a new design mouse pad right here. That's available. And the inspired by badges are still available over at CareyHolzman.com. They ship worldwide. Flat rate shipping. Shipping, I think, is included in the price. Just FYI. Thank you for asking. Okay, now let's plug this into the power supply. So I got to get back down here, work on the floor. Let's see. SATA. So I might as well go to the back one that's furthest away, because that'll be harder to get to later if I put anything in front of it. And then just grab any one of these and plug it on. Put it in. And then basically, all these cables can be just pushed in here. And if you really want to be lazy about it. Still don't know why the reset switch is there. Don't know who that's for. We can just grab all these. This is my kind of cable management. That's what I'm talking about. It cracks me up. It's so lazy. I love it. Come on. Are you kidding? But Carey, does it work? I don't know. Would assume so. Just move some of this stuff out of the way here. Yeah, Workbench feels like it's getting smaller every day. Let's go ahead and plug it in and turn it on and see what it does. I think we're going to be good to go. Let's see, we need power. We'll grab power. Didn't screw that back down. We need HDMI. Ethernet. But this does have Wi-Fi as well, so we have an antenna in the box. We can flip the switch to on. I will need a keyboard and mouse, so I'll grab that right now. And just to test our front USB here, I'll plug the dongle right down here, like so. If we hit the power button, which is right here, that's what that looks like. And we'll go over to our HDMI input. It says no signal, but hopefully it won't say that very much longer. Let me go back to camera 1 for a second and see if we can put both up there on the screen at the same time. Oh, it didn't like something. What does it say? Oh, I missed it. To the BIOS for some reason. I don't know. I missed what it said. Want to quit without saving? No, let's save, exit, and save. See any cables?
No. Awesome.
So what am I missing? Did we put a drive in this in an operating system? I thought we did. Bring the lights back up here. I couldn't read what the error was. Let's see. Let's get rid of camera 1 here for a second so I can read the BIOS. Here's $20 from Mark Gaines, 20 pounds from Mark Gaines, joining us from, words are hard. 20 pounds from Mark Gaines, joining us from Northern Ireland. Thank you, Mark. So I'm trying to figure out what was, so we know the mouse works, so our front USB works. We updated the BIOS. And I know we put a solid state drive. I swear we put Windows on there. Did we not put Windows on this? I can't remember. I'd have to go back at the video and look. Usually I install, yeah, I'm sure I installed Windows on it. And the error message went by so fast, I couldn't read what it said. Let's just take a look here. Storage should identify that we have, yeah, our 2 terabyte storage there. GB light control. Suppose that's where we could turn RGB off, I guess. Let's do this. Let's do F10. We've not made any changes. Yeah. I think there's any changes to make. What's it doing? It's certainly acting like it doesn't have an operating system on it. Let me grab my Windows 11. I can't remember if I put an OS on here or not. Maybe I was waiting until we had it in a case. So let me plug my Windows 11 flash drive in. Let's hit, we don't have a reset button. I'll hit the power button, shuts it off. Press the power button again. And then now it should boot to our USB Windows 11 media installation, hopefully. And then I need to also unplug the Ethernet if we're going to do an install. I don't want it trying to force me to create a Microsoft account. projectzero. Here we go. It's trying to figure out where it's going to boot now. There it goes. Oystein says, 0 cables, hallelujah. Yeah, it certainly appears that I did not install Windows on this. I think we took a long time on the BIOS update as we were figuring that out, and there wasn't much time left. So I think that's what happened last Friday. I worked on 7 systems since last Friday, 7 or 9. So it's really hard for me to remember. They all get kind of in a blender and mixed together. I'm going to do Windows 11 Pro. Of course, I'll be buying my license key the same as you guys do. I'll go over to VIP CDK deals. I'm going to use my own coupon code, and I'm going to pay the same price you guys pay. Yeah, unallocated space. So that verifies we never put the operating system on. So I'll do that now. So while we're waiting, is there any questions you guys have? Anything that we can address? Again, I get the feeling that that foot and this level go together for making something level. I want to say video card, so I don't think we use that since we don't have a video card in this build. Douglas said, I mentioned I would install Windows 11 off camera. Did I? Well, I never got back to it, so we're going to do it on camera. Thank you for keeping me honest, Douglas. I got involved in so many projects since Friday that I just didn't have time to revisit this until today. Planet Cryos with $2 says you did not install Windows. I just looked. Thank you, Planet Cryos. The graphics card cable will be showing. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. They can only, do what they do for the motherboard. When it comes to the graphics card, that's up to the graphics card makers. So you'll want to look to them for cable solutions. Luke Greenia says, according to the MSI documentation, the level and support is for a discrete GPU. 55 Staying Dude says the same thing. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I assumed. Good to know when I assume it was assumed correctly. Oystein says, will you be buying the Windows 10 Pro key to activate your Windows 11? You bet I will. Why would I spend more money? I don't know why the Windows 11 key cost more. A Windows 10 key works exactly the same. So yes, I will buy a Windows 10 Pro to activate Windows 11 Pro. You do not have to install Windows 10. The Windows 10 Pro key will work on a clean install of Windows 11 no differently than a Windows 11 key. So if you want to pay more for a Windows 11 key, be my guest. I buy way too many keys. If it's even costing me $3 more, 10 builds is $30. So that basically buys me 2 more keys. And our install is just about done. So we got a pretty speedy little system here, very attractive. And I do see some of the front fan cables are poking through that I could clean up a little bit later. But overall, just a really nice look, I think. And simple, super simple. Just slap it all in there, close it up, you're good to go. Nick Caffrey says he used VIP CDK deals to buy a Windows key with my promo code and it didn't work. But he contacted them for help and they solved it in 4 hours. And the mistake was his own mistake. So they fixed his mistake. And he says it's a super price. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. It's the real deal. Totally legit and guaranteed. All right, so let's go through this real quick here. US, skip. Don't have internet. Continue with limited setup. And we'll call this Project Zero. Take out my Windows 11 installation USB drive and put that away. We don't need it. You want to grab the close-up camera and shoot some close-ups of this thing while it's running? Sure. Go ahead. So you see at the very bottom, there's some fan cables that are kind of sticking out. I just need to pull the slack through.
Yes.
It's a good idea, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, I still have plastic on the glass. You know what? We could probably get a better view if I peel the plastic off.
Go for the peel.
All right, let me go back to camera 1 here for a minute. And we'll go to full screen on camera 1. Got to use the right keyboard for that.
Oh, that's so much better.
Well, wait a minute. I'm going to get the rest of it.
Wow, what a difference.
Yeah, that's probably going to make it a lot clearer. Put that on there so it doesn't scratch your shipping, you know?
Different.
Now grab the camera.
Okay.
Yeah, come on over. Oh, that's much better. Yeah.
Oh, that's so much better.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Just for
look at
grins.
Oh. Gotta change.
Well, we have an LED button down there. Do you see the LED button? It's over here somewhere. You notice how the power button's got a little light on it? So that's our power button. That's our LED. Go ahead and move the camera back up.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, leave it there. Neat.
Let's see what else there is.
Oh, that's. Oh.
I don't think I've gone all the way around yet. Yeah, we might be around now. Yeah. And of course, you could use the motherboard software, the MSI software, since we're plugged into the motherboard.
Wow. Without the cable, that's amazing. Difference. Positive.
Super clean. All right. Thank you for the close-up. There we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see how we're doing on our install here. Oh, we're done. So let me go ahead and plug the Ethernet cable into it. We'll start checking for updates. Let's make a few settings there for my preferences there. Well, it's updating. There we go. All right, so that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions for me, please ask them in the chat room now. And what about wraps up today's video? I'm gonna look one other thing here, and that's gonna be at our system properties. Right click, system, just verify. Yeah, we've got the Ryzen 5 7600 processor, 32 gigs of that RGB OLOy RAM. And of course, Windows 11 Pro 23H2 that we're grabbing our updates for. So all that looks good. Of course, we'll put the AMD Adrenalin software on here as well. I can't remember what manufacturer of drive we put in there. Let's take a quick look. If it's a Samsung, of course, I'll put the Samsung Magician. Otherwise, it's fine. Pretty's hardware. Oh, we use the P41 from SKhynix. So SK Hynix does have some software that was similar to Intel's for monitoring the drive. It's optional. If you want to put it on, you can. Not sure that I will. And yeah, let me go back over to camera one. Really affordable build too. When you think about getting the case and the motherboard together for $300, adding the CPU, the RAM, and the storage, and the power supply, maybe added another, I don't know, $500. We're under $1,000 for a system that's it's no slouch. Granted, it's not the fastest thing out there, but it's probably faster than most people's computers and very easy to work on, very easy to upgrade. Back to my glasses. Here we go. We don't generally mention costs in my videos because these videos are going to be here for the next 10 or 15 years. And things go on sale, things go out of stock, things go out of production. Prices, it's like telling you how much it costs me to fill up a tank of gas. That might be interesting historically, but unfortunately, people that watch YouTube videos quite often aren't paying attention to when the video was posted. So they think they're watching new content when they're watching content from years ago. And then they get sticker shock when they realize that the parts are at the same price as I mentioned. It's generally a bad idea to talk about prices on a video that's never going to be changed and that will always be available for years and decades to come. Same goes with your comments. When you leave a comment that says, hey, that's on sale right now, you're etching your comment in stone to be available to read. As long as the video stays up, your comment stays up. And even if your comment was only valid for 48 hours, it's very, it's kind of deceptive to people reading it thinking, oh, I'm going to take advantage of the sale, not realizing that was 4.5 years ago when you wrote that. So do keep that in mind when you leave comments. Think about like etching it in stone. It's there and it's going to stay there. Unless the creator removes it or YouTube removes it, it's a little irresponsible to talk about of the moment when it comes to stuff like this. We try to keep that in mind when we make the videos and when we leave our video notes, that any deals we're posting, we put dates on them just so people know. You know, if there's a deadline, if there's an expiration. If there's no expiration, then of course it's not necessary. David Graham says, I missed his super chat. Oh, did I, David? Let me take a quick look here. Over on my activity tab. Ah, yes, David contributed $5 in super chat. ASUS makes a better Zero motherboard. It also hides the GPU cables. And, whoops, where did it go? Shoot, hold on. And they make a new GPU connector. Okay, well, there you go. So, you know, this stuff is just coming out. And I expect that as we go from a version 1, if you will, to competitors responding, and where we see improvements may be important to some people. I don't plan on putting a GPU in this, so I don't really care. But it'll be interesting to see what ASUS brings to the table, and hopefully we'll see something from Gigabyte and something from ASRock as well. ASUS probably wants you to buy their video cards too, so that might be something that primarily works with their graphics cards, although I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that. So just something to keep in mind. And if you want to keep everything the same, it usually keeps it all looking really good too, versus, you know, a GPU from this manufacturer, a case from that manufacturer. ASUS is one of the few motherboard makers that does make cases and GPUs and motherboards, and you can do an entire ASUS build with an ASUS cooler. I don't know if they make RAM or storage. Gigabyte's making the storage and the cases and the motherboards and video cards as well. So be that as it may, it's, if you stick with one manufacturer, if the aesthetics are that important to you, it'll probably look better. Okay. My glasses. Thank you for that, David. Appreciate you, my friend. And let's see. Skull says, I remember when you used to do your builds on your kitchen counter going back almost 10 years. Yeah, we started this in 2008 back on that kitchen counter, back at Studio B. Oystein says $265.69 to send that case to Norway. Ugh, that sucks. Bill Sony T says, how much to sell it, Carey? Well, personally, I don't have any use for it. I'd be happy to sell it. It'd be a little difficult to ship this given its weird shape. Although putting it back in its original box and putting that into another box, you're probably looking at $1,000, I would estimate, just off the top of my head. I think when it's basically, we have all the components listed, right? So if you add up what the components cost, I'm not looking to profit off of it. As long as I can break even on it, I'd sell it. I would estimate $1,000. I usually ask people to just email me personally. I don't like to negotiate deals on a live public video. There's a lot of different circumstances, shipping rates depending on where somebody lives. Of course, I can only ship these here within the United States, but do reach out to me. There's an email address in the About part of the YouTube channel here. Just go to the About section and you can reach out using that email address, and then we can work that out privately if you're interested. Thank you for asking. Scott says, great build. Have a great weekend, Carey and Marlena and everyone in the chat. Right on. Thank you. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Jonathan says, will you be updating the Windows optimization program to work with Windows 11? It already works with Windows 11. There's nothing else needed. Roystar Man says, what to do with all the space inside of here? Yeah, well, it's just there for looks, right? I mean, there's really nothing you can put down there on the power supply shroud. And then that whole left side of the fans is all there for fans. If you put anything there, you're going to block them. So I kind of feel like the empty space is there intentionally. Paul O'Brien says, I dig that computer. Give it to me now. Hey, if there was a way that we could get this to Ireland that was affordable, we shipped a computer to Australia. It was $1,400 in shipping costs. So thankfully it arrived in one piece, because I don't even know how it would help that gentleman if he had, cracked glass or something that broke. Will a Windows 11 key work for Windows 10? No, it only works the other way around. And again, Windows 11 keys cost more, so I don't know why you would want to spend more money to downgrade to something that's cheaper. That is completely illogical. But no, it will not work. Seeing if there's any other questions I missed. Martin says it feels a little incongruous to have this beautiful setup without a discrete GPU. I think there's too much emphasis placed on online, specifically from enthusiasts and hobbyists that have very little practical application for a GPU outside of playing games. For me personally, as a video editor, the editing is much faster on an Intel GPU. The graphics that are built into these chips are fine for 90%, 85% of all PC owners. And those that are gamers that can afford to spend, $600 to $2,500 on a graphics card, you can certainly do that. But the idea that this is missing something because it doesn't have a GPU is sort of a tunnel vision, inconsiderate of anybody else who could falsely think what you're saying is true when they actually would have no purpose to have a GPU, and it would be money spent for no reason. And it's more drivers you have to update. So I mean, if you're a gamer and that's what you're after, well, you certainly don't need to hear it from me. And again, if we're building this for you and you're paying for it, we'll build it however you want it. If I were to put a GPU in this, that would take out money from what essentially will be a future project here on the channel. And that means there'll be less content for everybody because of one person saying that, you know, oh, you should spend $600 on a GPU. And that is a mini PC that we can be reviewing for that kind of money. In fact, there's a few other projects that I've got in the lineup here that I can't wait to share with you. As I mentioned, money is very, very tight. Gaming is an expensive luxury. So when you want to tell us how to build it and you're paying for it, we're more than happy. But as long as we're building it and we're financing it, we're sharing this content with you. It doesn't cost you anything to watch it. And so we appreciate your gratitude, and we appreciate your appreciation that we choose to invest this money into the channel. I don't need this computer. I built this for you guys. And if it's not good enough, I'm sure there's other channels you can watch. So, you know, it's very frustrating to put this much effort and this much sacrifice and have somebody say it's not enough and they're not contributing anything. It's frustrating. I'd like to see your video. How's that? Show me how it's done. Then I'll tell you it's not good enough. We'll see what you have to say. See how you like it. We always get one in the chat room, you know? All right. Any other questions? To see if there's other questions I missed here. We're good. Claudio says, I love this build. Right on. Thank you, Claudio. Chucky Bob says, will you be doing a high-end desktop with Threadripper Pro? No, we don't. So here on the channel, we recently did a complete server repair. That's a $15,000, $20,000 computer. Once again, we don't have the sort of sponsors here that other bigger channels have, nor do we build machines of that level, except very rarely. So I think on the channel history, we've done 3 or 4 Threadrippers in 15 years, 10 years, however long it's been that Threadripper's been available. They're profoundly expensive. I have no use for it. If you'd like to order one from me and have me build it for you and you're going to finance it, I'll be happy to build it on camera. In fact, any suggestions you have for what you'd like to see on camera, if you're going to finance and pay for it, we're certainly happy to build it, put it on camera and ship it to you as long as you're here in the United States. We don't have the budget for it here, nor do we have any use for it. So the $15,000 server that we repaired just sits here collecting dust until I find a use for it, which, you know, sits along with about 30 other machines sitting here. That's the trouble with being a YouTube content creator, is you can get a buildup of a lot of spare parts laying around, and it can be very difficult finding buyers of that caliber to then, you know, sell them, because I need the money so I can buy more parts so I can make more content. So no, I don't think we'll be seeing a Threadripper unless you order it or somebody else orders it. It is not on the agenda for 2024 or 2025. Not unless YouTube starts paying more or people become more generous in in supporting the channel, or we get some miraculous, sponsorship that's gonna fork over. But we're not that big, so we're very limited with funds. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if there's other questions. Daniel Emberley wants to know how my luck has been with tempered glass. Any accidents? No accidents. Everything's been fine. Even in shipping where there's damage to the case, the glass remains perfect. So maybe they should make the whole case out of it. Pablo says hello. Welcome in, Pablo. Steve Mercure says, thank you for building the system. I enjoyed watching and it looks fantastic. Right on. Lee Greenia says, I love the clean look. I wouldn't want a discrete GPU, especially with the power of today's onboard graphics. Again, if it's something that you are not using, if you're using it for gaming, and again, it depends on the kind of gaming and the resolution and how demanding of a gamer you are and what games you play. Just hope that your wallet can support that habit. I think a drug habit's cheaper than gaming.
There's a request for me to come over and say hi and then bye.
Yeah, we're
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate all of your contributions. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for being a member, chatting with us, for just being a part of our wonderful community. Very much. Appreciate it.
Well, like she said, we have an amazing community here, and hopefully the people that are new will stick around and become regulars here and make some new friends. We'd love to expand this community with other like-minded, kind, and supportive individuals. And there's never too many. Hey, there's Thomas Backenstow, thinking of such. Welcome in, Thomas. Just saw you in there. And if I didn't give you a shout out, it's just because it gets super busy. But remember, we do our members only videos on Monday. Those are a lot more intimate. And if you become a member, well, you can join a very small group of people that help support this channel and also get those. Basically, it's almost like a one-on-one with me on Mondays. They're very informal, kind of behind the scenes, what's going on, what's coming up. Sometimes I'll do a repair or something that I can't do on the public channel for one reason or another. And so that doesn't happen too often, but on occasion. But we've got some other projects coming up, some NAS units, some other mini PCs. I think there's still another build after this one that's in the works. So, but that's, I think, 2 or 3 weeks away. In the meantime, I thank you all for being here, for joining us on this unique build project. I think we're one of the first channels to show it. Anytime I can be the first or one of the first, I love that. I love doing something different than what everybody else is doing. I love bringing originality, and I love introducing you to projects and to products and services you did not know existed. My thanks again to our friends over at Acronis, at RoboForm, at Instant House Call, and at VIP CDK Deals. None of this is twisting your arm. They're all guaranteed products. They're all trial versions for you to try before you buy. And it's just there to save you money. There's discount codes from all 4 of these companies specifically for you guys only. So if you want to save some money and get a good quality piece of software for backing up, for password management, for remote access, or Windows or Office keys, these are 100% guaranteed. And I don't know any other YouTube channel that backs up the endorsements like I do. So there is no concern of getting burned or ripped off. Not here. What else? Thank you for all your super chats and your interaction. I appreciate the interaction. That's the whole point of the live videos. Even if we don't agree, that's okay, because that's the way it is in real life. I want to just check the phone and see if I've missed anything for any other final shouts out. We have $20 from Gregory Haffen via PayPal. Well, thank you, Gregory. Netfreak sent an Amazon gift card of $2. He says, thanks to teacher Carey and your team behind the screen, Mara, for sharing your knowledge and time. Hey, very much appreciated. Thank you for that. Never expected, but always appreciated. Okay, there's some ridiculous amount of money sent from Oystein. Am I reading this right, Mara? Holy cow. What? Well, thank you, Oystein. That is an incredibly generous Amazon gift card. I don't know what to say. That's crazy generous. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Oystein. Gilbert sends an Amazon gift card for $25. Our friend Alan Lindos with $7.77. I think that covers us. Oystein, give you a big hug. I got to go to Norway to do that. Thank you, my friend. Wow. 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 All right, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support and your kindness. We are back live on Monday for members only. And then we should have something on Tuesday. I always start my shows at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. That's going to be 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And hopefully you'll join us then with our big show on Friday. Fridays are always the big show. If there's something big budget or I'm spending a lot of money on something or it's something real special, I always save that for Friday. So at the very least, join us on Fridays to get the good stuff. Although if you want to see less expensive things, SSDs, you know, we did external SSDs earlier this week. We've done routers, switches. We've done, we did a whole series of mini PCs for a while there, and we've got some more coming in. And then some really bizarre projects like this right up here. This thing, I have to plug it in to show you, but I stumbled on this. Give you a sneak peek of this real quick, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Now, I wasn't expecting it to still have the paper on the plexiglass. It's not supposed to be brown. It's supposed to be see-through. There's paper on it. That's an oscilloscope screen. And if we plug it in, it's funny, I plugged this in. I'm like, it doesn't work. And then I remembered, these have to warm up, Carey. These ship from China, of course, right? And if you give it a minute, I probably have to turn the power button. There's a power button back here. We give that a minute. Probably will help if I cut the lights. Let me just set that here for, it's tilted. Set it here. I definitely don't want the fall. That will shatter. Let's cut the lights. So this is an old, basically an oscilloscope screen. And I'll probably do like a little review on this. It's pretty neat. And we've got some buttons here that we can cycle through whether or not we want the date. There's an alarm, 12-hour clock or 24-hour clock being displayed digitally below the analog clock. Hex. So we'll leave the date on there. Over here, we have different dials. So that's a Roman dial. This would be a digital dial, right? Go back. This is a binary. For those of you that know binary, we'll go back, switch it to minute, just a regular standard clock there. Go back, 12-hour, and then time, I think that cycles us through, 24 hours. Prefer 24-hour clock. And I like the Roman numerals. And like I say, you can have the date appear or not appear. And then there's some holes on the side to put a screwdriver in if you want to adjust the focus. You notice that's not quite centered, but when I move it, it sort of moves on its own a little bit, kind of floats there. These are a little under $200 on eBay. And they're also available on AliExpress. They all kind of look alike. I'm disappointed that I have to peel this paper off because in some cases, the paper's on both sides. So if you want this to be see-through, as it's supposed to be, see, I started peeling the paper off here. I'm going to have to take it apart to get to the underside of it and clean it. to peel that paper off the acrylic. Pretty neato, huh? Neato? Kids still say neato? So we got fun little gadgets like that. I have a really cool Nixie style clock coming up too, which I haven't received yet, and I'm super excited. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you all. Well, I'll see some of you on Monday, the rest of you on Tuesday. Back here, 1 o'clock Phoenix time. One more time, that's 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks to our friends once again at Acronis, RoboForm, Instant House Call, and VIP CDK deals. Thanks to all the members. Thanks to all our friends in blue. Thank you to Mara Lena for building the thumbnail, doing our close-up work today. Thank you, Mara. I'll see y'all very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.